Right on. Thank you so much. That was so wonderful. What a wonderful introduction. And thanks for the wonderful hellos, everybody, and to the great conference that's going on here. Wonderful job, team. You should really thank your team. What a great job they're doing putting this on. And I got to catch the doc at the last end of that last presentation. And just great to have professionals here with you. And you're getting really good advice here. So thanks to everybody who's taking their time out of their busy weekend to be here and on into the week. Okay, so we got lots to cover. I'm going to jump into my presentation here. And this is something that I kind of do extemporaneously. I've always done these types of things extemporaneously, and that's what makes it fun. I never do the same lecture twice. Years ago, I was listening to Wayne Dyer, and he said that one day he forgot to bring his notes to the conference, and he had to wing it. And this is before my career even started. And I thought, geez, if I ever was a public speaker, I'd just wing it every time. And that's what I've always done. So it's always different. It's always new. It's always right what's happening in that moment. Right in the middle of what's happening right now is a really interesting phenomenon, which we will get to. But first, I want to just touch on what I've got set up here for you. So let's just jump into this. Oh, I can do it this way. Okay, let's try that. Okay. So I'm going to show you this right here. Everybody see that right there? That is the beginning of everything. You've got to start. You've got to figure out what's the right move to make, and you got to get in the game. Got to get on the chessboard and get active. You got to start moving the checker pieces. I like Chinese checkers a lot. So the Chinese checker pieces, whatever it is that you want to get going on, let's do it this week, and let's get into motion. So that's always how I begin every presentation. I do want to touch on some of the things that I am just absolutely deeply in love in. That's kind of off topic for what we're focusing on here, which is detox, cleansing, and fasting. But ultimately, all of those things become much easier when you're in an environment that you love. And farming is something I love, and the environment that I've created around me, around my farms, has always been one of my deepest loves and passions. It's like art. You're creating an art piece. And so my front yard, my backyard, my farm is an art piece. And this is the art that I work with on a daily basis. So I wanted to give you a look at that. Those are my crab apple trees. These are aronia berries, by the way, for those of you who didn't catch that one. Those are, they're black. So that's something we talk about a lot in my angle on nutrition, which is the darker and blacker the food, the better it is for you. And it's a longevity thing. That's in Taoism. They said that the black food feeds the Jing energy, and Jing energy is your primordial life force energy, your ability to survive. And so that's something I've really focused on, is staying on the black foods, in particular, any kind of black fruit or blackberry. And we do grow in Hawaii the black sapote, which is just wrapping up the season right now. There might be, I'm getting back there in May, and I don't know if there'll be any left. It's going to be a real sad day if there's none left. But that's the fruit, the chocolate pudding fruit you may have heard before. It's the black persimmon of the tropics of the Americas. And you may know that the persimmon fruit is indigenous and native to the Americas, in particular the Mississippi River Valley. And if you've ever had wild persimmons up the Mississippi River Valley, it is butterscotch. That's all I can say. It's liquid butterscotch. It's just the best. I love wild persimmons. Anyway, this is part of my art, creating different environments. This is another angle on my farm. Here's my garden, and what a magical thing it is to have a garden. And I hope that all of you at least start to have a garden. Maybe you have more of a knack. Like, I'm more of a person who plants trees. That's more of my specialty. Maybe you're a person that's better at doing gardens like this. Great. Okay, wonderful. It just depends on how you are. Some people are really good at growing bacteria and do like great kombuchas and sauerkrauts and things of that nature, and they have that skill. Some people are amazing at sprouting and growing sprouts, and that may be your skill, but you got to try. You have to start. You can see the beautiful views we have here on the farm. And I do have a trampoline right in the middle of my orchard, which I really recommend rebounding. And that's a very important piece of the detox strategy, is just make sure you keep moving. And the best type of movement is when you're rebounding, jumping up on a trampoline. I am actually an avocado grower, so it's not just a name. And this is some of my best work. Actually, I'll take it to the next one. This is my best work. This avocado right here, you can see that we call it the seed to meat ratio. How about that? And so in the avocado industry, we say that this right here has a really good seed to meat ratio. It's all meat and there's very little seed. You can see, that's what you're breeding for. That's what you want. You want flavor. And I've been at this since 1978. So you can imagine how long it's gotten to get to this. But this is the best I got. This is where I'm at with my avocado growing. And you can see that truly is really a small seed there. And wow, when you're cutting through slabs of fat, just slabs and slabs and slabs of fat. And people just go, whoa, you're slicing right through the middle and you're not hitting a seed. What's going on? Because they don't know that this is on the inside. Let's keep going. And you can see just some of the other things that we grow on our farm in Hawaii. So I have a farm in North America and Canada. And right now I'm farming in Texas. I'm in Texas currently. And we're doing a lot of really interesting farming here. And I can get to that a little bit later. And then, of course, my farm that I've had for almost 20 years in Hawaii. And you can see that that's the avocado and lucuma combo, or avocado and egg fruit, or canistel. For those of you who know that fruit, one of my favorites. These are avocado flowers, and I think I'll just leave it there for a second. We'll get into what's going on right now. We're in day 16 of a cleanse. Every change of the seasons, we do a cleanse. So when it changes from winter to spring, what happens? Well, you'll always find me leading a cleanse group somewhere on the internet. You can always track us down. When it goes from spring into summer, you'll always find me leading a cleanse group on the internet somewhere. When it goes from summer into autumn, we'll be cleansing again. And when it goes from autumn into winter, we'll be right back at it again. And this is something that becomes more important as you age. And the research on aging is pretty conclusive that one of the best theories we've got of anything that anybody's come up with yet is that it's basically an accumulation of metabolic poisons and toxins and environmental poisons and toxins that get you. And essentially, you'll break on the weakest link. It could be, maybe it's your heart, maybe it's going to be your cardiovascular system. Maybe it's going to be the brain. Maybe it depends. It's different for every person. But it's going to be eventually an accumulation of plaque, right? What's that? That's metabolic toxins, environmental toxins, where your body couldn't quite deal with it, couldn't get rid of the plaque. And so suddenly it overloads your system. It reaches a threshold. Now, the idea that we're getting into here, and it's a very important idea, is the idea that we're always trying to drop these threshold toxins and metabolic toxins down below that critical threshold moment where it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's a very important concept here. And this appears to be one of the most amazing discoveries, I think, of the 20th century. This has been pretty much conclusively proven in animals that if you are able to lower that load of toxins, and we're going to talk about some interesting and novel ways that I've stumbled into over my career, then you can keep going. You'll stay alive and you'll thrive. Now, everything in life comes with discipline, and everything in life has to be clever. You have to be clever. You have to be disciplined. And this is why we do this thing every 3 months. And the only reason we stay with it is because I know that if I don't stay with it, I'll get back into bad habits. The next thing you know, I'll be eating too much. The next thing you know, I will not feel good about where I'm headed with my health. And I want to be headed in the right direction, and I want to be reset on that right direction every single season. This moment right now, the winter to spring cleansing, is when the forces of nature are most strongly working with us. Forces of detoxification. It's spring cleaning. This is it. We're in spring cleaning right now. And it really begins on the day of the shift from winter to spring. So we'll get onto that when we talk about what we're doing right now and what you can do at home and what you can think about for yourself in the future. This shift right here occurs when there's the day of equal day and night. So we arbitrarily select March 20th, March 21st and say, oh, that's the equinox, and when it switches from the winter to the spring. That's not really true. The actual day when it shifts depends on your latitude. Most of us in the temperate regions of North America or Europe or Asia, we're actually shifting. We actually shifted into the springtime either on March 16th, 17th, or 18th. And if you're further south, let's say you're in Hawaii, maybe it happened on March 14th or 15th, something like that. And all of nature knows and responds. And it's really interesting. Once you know the day of equal day and night, then you start going, oh, I know this is the key day. And then after that day, springtime's happening and everything changes. And of course, spring means, and this just to clarify this for everybody, it's really important. There's more light than night. That's what spring means. There's more light than night. And once you get that, you start going, oh, the more light, and then everything starts sprouting, everything comes in. Now, this moment that we're in right now with the spring cleaning always begins for us with just gradually tailoring down the food. So we go from the normal thing of like, oh, okay, I'll snack on this or I'll eat that. Okay, I'll have lunch. Okay, I'll have breakfast. Okay, I'll have dinner. And that kind of behavior, which when you're 25, you can get away with it. When you're 65, you cannot get away with it. I already realized in my 50s, I'm like, I can't get away with it. There's just no way. It's not going to happen. If anything I eat at this point, I'm like going, my God, I'm gaining weight. What's happening? Anything. It doesn't even matter. I eat fruit. I was like, what's happening? Because my body's telling me, like, you don't need all that food. You don't really need food. And so that's why we cleanse. We're getting down, we're paring it down. So this week, let's talk about what you can do when you're deciding, hey, I'm going to cleanse and I want to detoxify. You don't want to jump into something crazy. In fact, this little symbol, I think, gives us an idea of what we want to be doing when we're thinking about cleansing. And that is, we want to be relaxing. We don't want to overload ourselves. We don't want to stress ourselves out. And so we go easy, or another way we like to say it is slowly is holy. So the first week you cleanse, and it can be this week. It's still springtime. We're still in that moment. We're still in that magical moment. It's a really good time to cleanse. First week, get down to one meal a day. Everything else is liquids. You can have soup. You like soup? Great. You like water? Great. We'll have water. You want juices? Okay, we'll have juices. You want smoothies? We'll do smoothies, but only one solid meal a day. And so we get disciplined about that. And that means there's no impulsive behavior going on. We get the impulsive behavior under control in week one. Now, of course, it's going to be a plant-based cleanse. So you're going to go vegan that week. So if you're vegan, cool. If you're vegetarian, cool. If you're a meat eater, cool. You're going to have to like pare it down for this week because we're cleansing, right? That week, we're bringing the calories down as well. So in the beginning of the week, it's more experimental. You're just trying this out. It's like, okay, one meal a day. Let me just do this consistently. And maybe you screw up on day 3 or 4. But you can't really screw up too much because we've got to start towards the end of that week, day 5, 6, 7, bringing the calories down so that we're ready for week 2. And in week 2, what we're doing, all vegan again, we are bringing the calories down for sure through week 2, just like we did in week 1, but we're going to go 100% liquid. That doesn't mean it has to be 100% juices. Doesn't mean it has to be 100% soup. Doesn't mean it has to be 100% smoothies. It could be a mix of what you like, but we're bringing the calories down. So it can't be 7 or 8 smoothies with lots of sugar in it all day long. You've got to start to bring that down. And this is kind of natural, will happen anyway. It kind of becomes easy to direct that energy towards less because your body will say, hey, it is springtime and we do want to cleanse. And hey, we are feeling better with less. And hey, we're dealing with the low blood sugar better and low blood pressure better. And then the next step on week 3, which is I'm in day 16. So I'm in week 3. I'm 2 days into week 3. Then we start into the fasting. Then we're ready to fast. And so what I've learned over the years is that if you're fasting at home and you're fasting unsupervised, you got to have your electrolytes. And that means water, sea salt, lemon, and that's it. There's nothing else. Now, if you have no sea salt in there, what ends up happening is you can have really low blood pressure or go through a really intense swing of energy where your energy just drops down, and it's not appropriate for home cleansing. If you're doing like a supervised cleanse when you're in a clinic and you got doctors watching you, okay, great. But that's not what we're doing. This is home stuff. And so we want to make sure we don't drop down in our electrolytes and suddenly have no energy. And that can happen spontaneously if you're fasting, for example, just on distilled water. And that can be very difficult for newbies or even oldies like myself, because suddenly, if I'm running around, I'm doing my normal thing. Once I get, say, 6 days into it, then I might do the 7th day on, no water at all and just do a dry fast, or I might do, nothing or whatever. That's down the road. In the first steps of like getting used to cleansing with the seasons and getting those calories down and getting that weight off, getting that waste off of you, it's really important to just not go completely like, okay, you go totally idealistic. And people do that. I get that. They go, it's got to be just distilled water. And I read this book and it's going to be this way. And if it's not this way, then it's, that all of that stuff is super dangerous with fasting because we're more toxic now than ever before. There's more toxins in the environment than ever before. We're born into it. We're born into our mother's womb. We're already synthetic chemicals are present in the womb, and it goes on. All our lives we're being exposed to all this stuff. So that is a key piece of it, is just relax, chill out, make sure you enjoy your avocados while you can. And during week 1, and maybe you're going to blend them in on week 2. And then when you get into week 3, you're going to go onto the water. Now, at this point for me, yeah, it's nice to get the rubber tire off from the winter, and I'm already feeling like, geez, I can't grab anything. That's good, So I'm day 16. I'm already at that stage, but I'm going to keep going. And this time, I'll probably go 55 days or longer. Normally, I'm bringing people through a 21-day process and then a 10 and a half days back to normal. So if you're going to cleanse, let's say for 21 days, you don't suddenly go, let's go back to bread on day 22. That's going to be a disaster because your system's it's ready for water. I mean, you've been drinking water. You can't suddenly go to bread. It's going to be a clog and a half, and you're going to feel terrible. So you got to be very careful on the way out, and you go out the way you came in. So those 10 and a half days on the way out, which is half as long as the cleanse was, right? So we take 21 days, divide it in 2. We have 10 and a half days. Then that's how long it's going to take to go out. And so you gradually go back to liquids again. So you go to some juices and some smoothies. Then after a few days, 3, 4, 5 days of that, you go, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's try something solid and maybe have a salad. And then you gradually go back to normal from there. So it's really every 3 months we're doing like a 31 and a half day process of cleansing. And that just keeps you honest, because otherwise the bad habits will take over. Otherwise the influence of like, hey, just come over for dinner. Come on, just have a little bit of this and a little bit of that takes over. And all of a sudden there's a little bit too much weight on and you go, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. Or suddenly it's really a lot of weight. And I go through this all the time, right? Because when you get to a certain age, as you know, most of you realize this, it's like to get that weight off and get back to the thin you that you remember from your 20s or 30s, you got to work harder at it. And so every single cleanse, I'm like, okay, it's not flat yet. I got to get this thing down. This stomach's got to go flat. And sure enough, about day 5 or 6 or 7 on that water fast, it's flat. And I'm back to normal. And I'm like, okay, I'm back. And then, takes sometimes a month, 2 months to have a bad day where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. And then, as you get into maybe month 3 after the cleanse, you're like, oh no, I gained the 5 pounds back, or I gave 10 pounds. Then you go back and suddenly we're on to the other cleanse. So I do that consistently. If you're new, try 1 cleanse a year. If you're a little bit more sophisticated, try 2. If you're even more sophisticated than that, try 4. Every change of seasons. And there's people out there who will coach you along. I like to coach you along. Fully Raw Christina, you can talk to her. She loves to do it. She loves to coach people along on cleansing and juice feasting, and just find the person that resonates with you and just go for it. And what feels really good to get that strength back and that energy back and that vitality back that you had when you were in your 20s or when you're in your 30s, or even sometimes even in your teen years, you can hit those kind of moments. I hit them occasionally. I was kind of feeling that a little bit today. We went out today. We went to a local river that's behind where I live over here. And we're collecting rocks and just having fun, splashing around and walking, collecting medicinal mushrooms. Found some reishi today, a really strong day of picking, and was just feeling the sun. It was just a great, awesome experience. Okay, let's look at a few more images here, and we'll talk about some of the things that I found that are really key with cleansing. And no matter where you go, there you are. You're always with you, right? You're in your avatar. You're not going to be able to escape your body. So you got to just live with your body. You got to make that body better. One of the best ways to do that is to get the waste out. And we got to make sure we're moving waste out. And I like enemas and colonics, not every day. We don't want to get addicted to them, but they can be very helpful. If you're constipated and you're bathing in your own waste and things are not moving, it's really nice to do an enema and get that stuff out. When we get to the water fasting, it's a priority. You've got to have a bowel movement every single day while you're water fasting, or you're bathing in your own waste. Very important key. And it's one of the biggest keys of all. In fact, to get the weight off, to detoxify, to cleanse, we've got to use the way that God gave us, which is through the bowels, right? That's the main way we're detoxifying our body. And so we want to flush all of that stuff out and get it out. And the more we can accelerate that, the better. So there's certain things that we used to use back in the old days, like cassia, which is in the senna family. And so you suck on these discs, and they're very powerful laxatives. And next thing you know, boom, everything's coming out. And it's like a fruit, but it has some side effects. You might get that from just aloe vera. You could get that from other things that work as laxatives for people who aren't used to them. Certain herbs are like that, where if you're used to them, it's not a real strong laxative. But if you're not, it'll clean you out. And it's really important to get the colon empty and get the intestines empty, because think about the layers, right, of our tissue. We have the colon and the intestines in the middle, and then gradually you work your way out through your tissue. Now, to get that toxic load out, we've got to move that debris into the colon. We've got to move our lymphatic system. We've got to move our circulatory system. Things have got to get into an empty space on the inside. So if our colon is full of feces, then the lymphatic system's looking into the colon going, there's no room. We can't dump this stuff over here. There's no room in there. So we're just going to hold on to it. And this is the real danger of cleansing, is people get wound up into, I'm against colonics. That's bad. It's definitely no good. I'm against enemas. I can't do that. I'm against this. I'm against that. Meanwhile, they're bathing in their own waste. Meanwhile, they're sitting in their own feces. And I was with a chiropractor friend of mine over in Marble Falls, Texas, the other day, and he was telling me about all these young, thin girls that he's got in his practice that come in there, and when he gets their spinal X-rays, he's looking through. He's like, these people are impacted with feces. Their whole intestinal tract is all the constipation, right? Holding. Terrible. One of the most dangerous trends of modern society isn't crime. It's not an out of control government. Those are actually symptoms of the real problem, which is constipation, right? If you're constipated, you don't feel well, you don't look well, you don't do well, and all the problems arise from there. So we want to get that emptied out. Now, when it is emptied out, your lymphatic system looks into the colon and goes, it's empty. Let's get rid of it. And the lymphatic tissue is dumped in, and all of a sudden, all that waste is able to flush into the bowels, and the bowels are able to flush it out of your body. And that piece of it is where people get super hung up, because they're doing, no, I'm doing the juices, no, I'm doing the liquid diet. Meanwhile, they had one bowel movement. When we're cleansing and detoxifying during that, say, 31 and a half day period, we want to have like 5, 6, or 7 bowel movements every day. You're thinking, huh? How is that possible? Again, it's crazy. You could take a skinny yoga girl, and they're impacted with feces. It's unbelievable how much backed up waste and hardened waste is backed up into their intestinal tract. And, that's what got Elvis, if you remember, right? He was just massively constipated with all this undigested material. So it can't be just a cleanse about what's going in here. It's got to be a cleanse about what's going on down there. And we got to get that stuff out. Now, when the stuff backs up, we go cuckoo. And that is, in my opinion, one of the major causes of mental illness. The toxicity back up into our system. Yes, we're in a toxic environment, but it's going to get a lot more toxic if you're constipated. So if the backup goes all the way back up, we go cuckoo up here. As soon as you drain that tube down there, the toxins go down. It's a really good way to think about it. Observe that little correlation, and I think you'll see it. If you start looking into society, you start going, oh, I see it now. That person's constipated. I got it. Okay, that's why they're behaving that way. They don't have a bowel movement. I was doing an interview like this a few months ago, and this young gal, she's like, can I interview? And I was like, sure. And so I got into this, and as I got into talking to her, she's like, I only have one bowel movement every 2 or 3 days. And I was like, whoa, what? That's what she told me. I mean, I'm saying like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bowel movements a day. She's like, I have one every 2 or 3 days. That's a recipe for disaster. That will end in disaster. So if you need the assistance of colonics or enemas to make sure you're not bathing in waste during those periods of time when you're cleansing, then use those tools. Those tools are there for a reason. Instead of being ideologically possessed, some people get ideologically possessed, and this is the thing about can I have 1 drop of olive oil? Can I have just 1 drop? It's ideological possession. It's like, don't get too crazy about this stuff. Like, look, have this, have that. Have fun with your life, and know that, hey, if you're in trouble, then you need to follow the orders. The doctor says you're not having this, you're not doing that, you're in trouble. You better follow those orders. But in your normal everyday life, you're not going to get into trouble as long as you don't go to fly off the deep end with this thing or that thing. And in our world, in the vegetarian vegan world, we do get a lot of extremists, because that it attracts it. It's the nature of the game. And people go, no, I'm going to just eat only this, or I only do that, or this, and they're ideologically possessed, and it's not safe. And it's not the appropriate way to go about things now, that with the knowledge that we have, not only about nutrition, but about human behavior, right? If you are so like, I don't do that, and I'm against that, and I don't do this, pretty soon there's going to be a day when you break. And we can't be, if it's your life's on the line, then you'll hold your discipline. But if your life's not on the line, usually people don't hold their discipline. And all of a sudden when they break, it's like they're mowing into like, I'm going to eat this whole loaf of bread because, bread was bad, but I'm really hungry. And, that kind of stuff where suddenly then they feel terrible about themselves because they ate the bread, that thing. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm going to show you a few more images. This detox and cleansing concept eventually leads you, if you're really paying attention, if you're really focused on the real magic behind it, it leads you to the beauty path, a beautiful life, a life of colorful representations of nature, where you feel like you are getting nourished by just being in the environment of people who are healthy and being in the environment of your home, which should be healthy. And this is the kind of thing that I like to do right here. Is I like to take that extra energy that I have and put it into growing food. This is our farm there in Hawaii, Noni Land. You can see it's just beauty. It just radiates beauty, right? Let's just look at this. Like, look at that paradise. Is that awesome or what? These are the types of paradises that we want for ourselves, right? We want to be surrounded by this because it isn't just about, I want to be healthy. It's, I want to be experiencing a beautiful life. I want to achieve my goals. I want to have time for my family. I want to have time to make those special calls or make those special visits to friends and family members. Okay. And this, let me just show you this little image. These are cacao pods, one of the great fruits of the world. And this is the food that all chocolate is made out of, everybody. That's it right there. We have an orchid growing in that one. You can see this is an image I took at a market in Peru. It's always nice to see. And this is what's on the inside, one of the great fruits of the world. And when your focus is on this kind of a thing, the beauty path, as the Native American people used to say, then you're not focused on all the other stuff. How can I make this, how can I make more money in this job that I hate, where I've got to, be in the suit that I hate, and I've got to drive an hour that I can't stand. And we got to get out of that. We really got to turn our focus into what we love. And if you do that, cleansing and detox becomes easier, because the food oftentimes is disguising an inner angst and frustration we have with our lives, right? Let me repeat that one again. I think that's a really important point. This is what the fasting immediately brings to the fore. And that is the eating and the food, a lot of times just disguising an inner angst or frustration with life that we have. So we're eating to numb it. And when you fast, you face it. And it's amazing to face it. It really is, because you face it and you go, it disappears. It just disintegrates before you. And every day of the water fast, more and more power, you're accumulating more and more power, because you are succeeding. You are winning. You are overcoming the urges in your body to masquerade over an emotional pain. You're facing the emotional pain. You're dealing with it. Those are spiritual things. This is a very spiritual process. The whole process, yes, it's a physical thing because we're anchored in not eating. So we're in the physical world and we're, going to maybe drink some water instead. But the real battles are emotional. The real battles are mental. The real battles are spiritual. And when you just get into the arena, when you start, all of a sudden you go, there's nothing there. It's a big paper tiger. There's nothing happening here. And that is such an awesome thing. And so then you start to realize, oh, my mind was playing tricks on me. I told myself in my self-talk that I couldn't do it. I took action in spite of my fear. I'm now into the fast, and I realized it was a paper tiger. There's nothing there. That is very powerful. And this is what develops self-esteem. This is what develops courage. This is what develops the next phase of humanity, because we're running into some troubled times. We can all see the troubles that surround us. But what are we going to do about it? We're going to just face the inner demons, the inner troubles. And a lot of those we're disguising with food. And a lot of those come up and we face them directly with the fasting. Because with the fasting, are you going to want to be watching TV or something? It's not happening. You're going to be wanting to be in this kind of environment. You're going to be wanting to be in a natural environment and looking at stuff like this. You want to look at stuff like that. You want to see things like this. That's what happens. You're going to be wanting to listen to music, beautiful music that inspires you. So one of my favorite things about fasting is that I can really get deep into music, can really get deep into things that I really enjoy, like reading. I have time suddenly to read, because the less you eat, especially when the waste is out, and I literally have to emphasize it, because people will still come to me weeks later after I've said on every call on our detox and every day, they'd be like, I didn't really have the bowel movements, and I'm just the enemas. it's just not natural. And it's like, let me tell you what's not natural. Bathing in your own waste. That's not natural. You need to get that waste out of your body so you can glow in brightness and get your health back. That's what's natural. And so then people still, it's just, they're ideologically possessed. I don't know how else to say it. So be careful. And as you get deeper into it and you start to realize, my God, I am feeling better. I'm feeling good. Then we say you are on God's operating table. That's every fast that I do. It's not about like, am I really like, I don't even care if I have weight or off or not or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's nice to not have anything to grab here. Okay, I will say that, but that's not why I'm doing the fast. The reason why I'm doing the fast at this stage is purely about self-discipline and spirituality, purely for those reasons. I mean, that's what I love about it. And you can achieve highs, connections with your creator, connections to the sacred, connections to your ancient religions, which is so amazing, right? And just new discoveries about your way of life and your ancestors' way of life. It's incredible. I mean, this fasting is so awesome when you do it right. It's the best high. It's the reason why people are doing drugs, is they're trying to get to what you would get to when you're high on your own supply. That's why, right? They know that something's wrong. They know that something's wrong with the food. They feel it intuitively. They're trying to get to some sense of feeling abundant and happy and joyful and glowing. And then what's presented in the environment is like alcohol and drugs. And so that's what they choose. And all of a sudden they take the alcohol, the drugs, and they go, oh my God, I feel better. And what they really wanted all that time was to fast. But you can't, when you're on that kind of acidic diet and you're coming out of Doritos and Cheetos and God knows what kind of GMO products, you can't just suddenly go to water. You have to go step by step by step. Now, we have people right now today that are in their second day of their water fast, and they've never done that before, ever. They never did a single day in their whole life of no food, ever. And they're in their second day right now. I've got a friend, he jumped ahead. So he's on his third day of water today. He's never done a single day of water fasting. He's 54 years of age. And he's stoked. He really is, because now he's realizing he can do it. Every year he told me, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, dude, you can do it. Follow my instructions, step by step, day by day, and you will do it. And now he's on day 3 of water. This is a guy who he loves popcorn. He's addicted to certain foods. There's no question about it. I mean, I see it in his behavior, and he's on his 3rd day of water. Do you know what kind of incredible triumph that brings into your soul? Do you know how you feel about yourself when you pull something like that off? It's total victory. It's total winning. It's awesome. And that is a spiritual thing, right? Winning is a feeling. Just like beauty, beauty's a feeling. It's a feeling that the way you feel about the world, the way you feel about yourself. And when you have these kind of victories, you get through, like I did a day of water fasting, did 2 days, I did 3 days, did a week. You triumph, and not in a supervised setting. Look, if somebody just pulls the food out, gives you a key and locks you in a room, and a doctor checks on you once every day, sure, you're going to fast, and you could probably fast a long time, but it's going to be a rough one. But to fast in your daily life while doing things normally, I mean, my friend just bought a house. He's been in the middle of business deals. He's on the third day of a water fast. It's on. And that's what we do. This is a time of hyper learning. This is a time of hyper discipline. This is a time of getting your act together. And when you're fasting, it all happens. It's all on. It's so epic. Okay, let's just look at a few more images. This is a chaga mushroom. We found a reishi today. I'm going to show you a reishi. There's another chaga mushroom. These are fun things to do while you're fasting, by the way, and while you're cleansing. Go out into nature. It's not just a walk. Look for things. Have it in your mind, like chaga mushroom. What's he talking about? This black growth on birch trees. Let's go see if we can find it. Have fun. Take a look. Look around you. See what the amazing environment is that it's offering you. It's amazing, right? The incredible bounty of Mother Nature is truly exquisite. It's truly extraordinary. Meditate. Go deeper within. Find that place within yourself. Go and meet people. This was a great meeting right here. That's Phil Collins of Def Leppard. Not Phil Collins, but Phil Collins. We became good friends because of our friend Eric, their trainer. We have a mutual friend. And this guy's been a vegan for over 30 years. the guitarist for Def Leppard, one of the guitarists. What an amazing guy, and what we have such a great connection. And I just love to go see him perform. And we have this kind of thing because they have this guy in the band. He's not actually one of the players in the band, but he's one of their audio engineers, and his name is David Wolfe. So we always have this joke about David Wolfe, and this guy is absolutely against any health food whatsoever, and he's absolutely against any cleansing or fasting whatsoever. And he's the other David Wolfe. So when David Wolfe and I are together, it is really hilarious, and we as they say in the UK, we take the piss. Anyway, so here's the goal of it all, is to get us to the best day ever. And that's all we got, is the best day ever. You want to accelerate your healing? Get on God's operating table. Take the steps, do the due diligence, and start moving. Start. If you want to achieve great health for 30, 40 more years to come, start now and get into the habits now, because the habits create the character, right? The habits, they turn into the disciplines. The disciplines turn into the daily activities that create the character. And when you get into like a pattern, like, nope, it's change season, we're cleansing, I'm going to do this week, we're going to get on the 1 meal a day, boom, we're going to do now we're doing second week, we're going to do the juices, and then we're going to do the liquid diet, and then boom, we're going to go into the water fast, and then after that, we're going to do some juice feasting. When you get into that as a habit, all the other stuff becomes easy, because then your body can clean itself, it can flush itself. All your tissue ultimately wants to be juicy. It wants to have the water, right? It wants to be flushed out. One of the great things about water fasting, one of my great loves about water fasting, is the amount of water that I'm drinking, which I never drink enough water. Neither do you. That's the truth. Let's be real. Let's be real with each other. Are we really drinking 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 liters of water every day? I doubt it. I've known professional athletes, they don't even drink hardly that much water, and they need it as much as anybody. They're out there on the court for 3 hours or 4 hours. It's really full on. And this break from food means more water goes in. And nature's solution to pollution is dilution. Nature's solution to pollution is dilution. Let me give it to you one more time. Say it with me from the rafters. Here we go. Nature's solution to pollution is dilution. And we're in a toxic environment, so we've got to use all the tools that are there. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you. I think it's in here. I hope I got it in here. Oh, let me see. It's over here. There's the reishi, by the way. Let's look at a reishi. There's a reishi. That's what I found a reishi today. Very similar to this one right here. Look just like that one right there. What a great find. There's a reishi right there. Similar like that. Those are beauties to find. There's something that's at the core of our civilization. It's almost so deep within that we don't even really register it, how important it is. And it's the discovery of fire. And for fire to be used correctly, really, it's transformational. In fact, that's the symbol of what fire is. Fire is a transformational element. And there's a product of that fire that comes out of that fire that is the most incredible thing, especially coming from all the years of the raw food. And what a discovery. And that is the number one detoxifier of all. The thing you can do today and consistently every day. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just the consistency of it starts to take that burden off the liver, off the kidneys, and off the spleen, the filtration organs. And that substance we use to filter water. We use to filter air. I use it to filter soil. I do crazy amount of farming with this substance. And that substance is charcoal. Charcoal, activated charcoal, and its discovery and its use historically is quite profound. The ability of charcoal to adhere to toxins, and it really does adhere. It does not absorb, it adheres to. So it's an electrochemical phenomenon. It's not a sponge phenomenon. Is somewhere in the range of 100 to 200 times its own weight in toxins. To get some amount, even 500 milligrams of charcoal going through your system every day can have a really radical effect on taking a burden off the kidneys, for example. and take the burden off of your whole body, and just trying to filter through all the toxins in the environment, especially and importantly as we detoxify and cleanse. Because if we're going to focus on detoxification and cleansing, we need a binder. We need something that's going to pull it all, hold it all, and excrete it all and get rid of it. And that substance is charcoal. As I got into charcoal, by the way, I found out something very profound in animal research. Not that I'm into animal research. I love animals and I don't want to see them hurt or to experimented on. But when animals are given this kind of a test, I'm like, that's kind of a cool life. What they were given is charcoal. So one group's given charcoal, the other is not. Is there a difference? Is there a difference in lifespan? Is there a difference in health? Well, almost categorically, animals given charcoal always exceed any other substance that you can ingest to extend life. Any other substance, including things like resveratrol and compounds that have been well known to activate like the sirtuin genetic markers that trigger off a youthening reaction. Charcoal is more effective than that. Is charcoal more effective in animal research than, for example, stem cells? The answer is yes, in extending life. Yes, that's true. Now, we've probably never seen a number higher than an extension of life more than 20% with any kind of stem cell treatment of any creature in nature. And with normal, healthy nutrition, we're talking about extending lifespan somewhere around 9 to 20%, 9 to 18%, somewhere in that range with healthy nutrition, which is a lot. What does that mean? What's 18% mean? Well, if you get to be 100, that's 118. 18% is 18 more dots on 18 more years that we add on. And I'd like that. I'm sure you would too. If you're going to make it to 80, let's get you to 100. Let's get the extra 20 years. 20 years is a lifetime. But with charcoal, we get numbers like 25%, 28%, 33% extension of life. Unmatched. It's unmatched. There isn't anything more. Find me something more. I'd love to see it. 40% increase in lifespan, 43% increase in lifespan, even with animals started late in life on the charcoal. And so what's that telling us? Well, it's telling us that this theory about detoxification and that toxicity accumulation hitting a certain threshold at a certain age, especially later in life, and that there's a run up to the toxic buildup and a run up to the toxic load that just basically hits at like 65, 67, 68, 70, 71, 73, somewhere in there. That can be lowered, that toxic load can be lowered, and life can be extended even in animals started late on charcoal. Even in those started late. Now, that's a shocker. Now, what about this charcoal? No, it takes up healthy nutrients and it's going to absorb healthy nutrients. There's no evidence of that. Now, that's such a shocker, because immediately we go into the program, which is the charcoal is a sponge and it could suck up my healthy nutrients. And there's no evidence of that. There's never been any evidence of that in the history of research on charcoal. So how does it know? Like, how could it know that right there is toxic, like the glyphosate, but the lettuce calcium or whatever is good? And that's the electrochemical phenomenon of charcoal and the mystery of it. We're so deep into, like, for example, evidence-based research is never 100%. It can never be 100% because there's a hum of the irrational in our world, right? That's why things are always a percentage. Like, 98% it's going to be this, 90% it's going to be that. And we always want to play those percentages. We'd be foolish not to. We always want to play the percentages as smart as we can, but nothing's ever 100%. Right? That's an important thing to understand about the nature of our reality. And so this is where we get into this thing of like, there's a lot of mystery out there. And one of them is about charcoal. You'd think at this point in history, they would have figured out how charcoal works as a detoxifier. There's all kinds of theories. There's the pi stacking theory. There's the adherence theory. There's all kinds of there's the van der Waals forces theory. There's all kinds of theories. None of them are 100% correct. Some of the leading theories about the adherence and the way that the charcoal adheres to toxins like glyphosate, though that research only indicates, according to that theory, that the charcoal could act at a short distance, meaning the substance would have to be near the charcoal and would act in that way. We know that that's not how charcoal works. We know that charcoal taken consistently starts to pull from the nether reaches of the furthest extremities of your body, the toxins deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper to the intestines to be finally pulled into the charcoal and excreted. It has a drawing or attractive force. If I have an open container of charcoal right here in this room, let's say we expose, I don't know, somebody sprayed over there essential oils or something, some of those essential oils will be pulled into that charcoal over here. It's acting at a very large distance. And that is not scientifically explainable by any theory currently offered. That's the mystery. And that's the interesting part. So when we get it deeper into the cleansing, we get deeper and deeper into the charcoal. Is clay good? Should I use clay? Or what about zeolites? Okay, I like those things. But nothing like none of those things have the history of use of charcoal, nor the efficacy. Charcoal absorbs, almost adsorbs, by the way, with a D, not a B, D, different, almost every single toxin going in that we've ever heard of. I mean, you can't name a toxin or a drug that is not adsorbed by charcoal. In fact, it's such a big deal that in around 1963, there was a wonderful article was written by Holt called The Black Bottle. I think it was just called The Black Bottle. And that gained such traction in medical circles that charcoal in a slurry, in a drink, basically charcoal and water, became a thing that's always available in every emergency room all over the world. And in every hospital, you will find charcoal. So what happens? Somebody comes in with a drug overdose, they down the charcoal to neutralize the drugs. What's that telling us? What does that tell us? In a toxic world, what's the best cure? It's always a detoxifier. It's not even nutritive. Charcoal's not nutritive. It is epigenetic, strangely, just like I was telling about the sirtuin gene sequence, which is on one of our chromosomes, which is activated for longevity. There are at least 3 sequences that are influenced epigenetically by charcoal, even though charcoal isn't even a nutrient. How's that happening? It is happening, but we don't know how it's happening. We don't know the mechanism of action, right? This is part of that mystery. And this is a very important part about fasting and being in this type of lifestyle, is that we got to get away from the danger of believing we know everything. That's a very dangerous idea, that we know everything. Oh, we figured that out. Oh, we know the answer to that. No, it's this, and we know it's that. That kind of stuff. That is very disturbing to our spirituality. It's very disturbing because we don't know anything. That's the reality. We don't know anything. It's just, well, if the probability is this is going to be good, that's all we know. Right? And so with this whole thing, we've figured out everything. Very dangerous. And the fasting gets you in that state. It gets you into a state of awe. You're in rapt awe of Mother Nature. You're in rapt awe of this creation, of God's creation. And can we have more of that in the world? What do you think the health benefits of that would be? People would be happier, I'm sure. Are you the happiest when you're a know-it-all, or know-it-all is the happiest people you've ever known? Let's think about that. Think about know-it-alls that you've known in your life. Are they the happiest people you've ever known? But I bet you if you thought about, somebody, a religious figure that you really admire, somebody who's like a monk or somebody like that, they're just in awe. They're just going like, whoa, what's going on here? Wow, look at this. Whoa, check that out. Oh my God, that energy. And that's an energy that comes in really nicely with the fasting, because the fasting encourages that. Whereas the know-it-all behavior, you're going to be in for a ride when you hit the water fast. That's all I can say. Fasting can be fun. It can be easy. It's the greatest time going. Of course, there's going to be steps and layers that we've got to peel off before we get to those stages, but there'll be glimpses for sure. There will be signs. There will be clues. And that's the inspiration that keeps you moving forward. Okay, now let me just show you one more thing here. I wanted to see if I can get this in here. Where is that? Oh, geez. Okay, it's not there. Let me just do a stop share. I don't know if you guys have been seeing me. Maybe you've been seeing me in that little window right there. But greetings, I'm David Avocado Wolfe, and thanks for being with us here on this really awesome conference. What a great conference is going on, and you've caught me again in the middle of a detox and cleanse. And I think the last one I was on a detox and cleanse and really enjoyed that. I know that you're going to have a lot of questions for me, but I do want to get into this charcoal bit just for a second. And I want to bring up my charcoal image. So I had to switch presentations there. So hold on one second. And I just want to get this image in here because it teaches us about transformation. It shows us about the transformational power of charcoal, of fire. Right? What is going on with fire? What is the deal? Why is that such an awesome energy in nature? And how do we benefit from that? Well, instead of burning all our food up, maybe we could actually charcoal it instead, eat the charcoal and let that draw off of us the metabolic toxins and environmental toxins of our environment. Okay, let me just get this. Here it is. Okay. Took me a second to find that. I was like, where is that image? Okay, there's the images right there. And okay, here we go. Let me just open this up. And then I'll show you. Oh, yeah, I do want to open up 51 images somewhere in here. Okay. And let me just show you this. And we're gonna get to that magic of transformation that gives rise to the coal biter legend. Oh, it's taking a second. I still have the same computer. I don't know about all of you, but I'm still using the same computer I've been using since 2015. I'm going, whoa, this is the longest I've ever had a computer in my whole life. Okay, come on. Why isn't it opening? Okay, wrong image. Let's go here. Maybe this one. Okay, hold on. Oh, yeah. Okay, it did open. I thought it was the last one. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so let's look at this. Geez, okay, there it is. Okay. So I had this really awesome experience where I was able to be in Peru at a really remote location on the beach. There was no roads in there. You pretty much had to get in there by boat. But if you took a vehicle in there, it was a really hellacious ride. I'm going to share a screen with you now. Hold on one second. There we go. Oh, where's my share screen? 1 second. There it is. Okay, let's go to here. And they wanted to plant some plants. And so I thought, hey, let's go look at the beach. We'll get all the different materials we could get, the wood and the bones and stuff that are washed up on the beach from all the walruses, and we'll burn them up and we'll get a charcoal going. And that's what we did there. And so this is really interesting because in this image, you can see the skeletons of the wood, right? You can start to see that this charcoal here is forming. And why am I doing this? Well, this is going to become the base. It's going to become the bottom. It's going to become underneath anything I'm planting. This is important. Charcoal remediates the soil. So when I'm planting something on that soil, I'm going to remediate it with a layer of charcoal, and then I'll put my raised beds in above that. Why would I do that? Well, I don't know if they sprayed glyphosate. I don't know what's been there before. Not only that, the charcoal is a negative energy battery, right? So the atmosphere is positively charged, the earth is negatively charged. And whenever you have a concentrate of charcoal, you have a negative energy battery. And so what happens is more of the forces, the atmospheric forces are attracted to that negative polarity. That would be things like oxygen. Oxygen is pulled to charcoal, right? The charcoal is a drawing agent. It's a detoxifier, and it brings certain things with it. Now, eventually we got a big pile like this. You can see all those walrus bones. We threw those in there. And that, by the way, makes an excellent charcoal as animal bones. And in this particular case, being on this beach, I was like, geez, there's so many bones on the beach. Let's burn them up and we'll make a really cool fertilizer. And then we will get planting. And right underneath that, you can see I even charcoaled the box. You see how it's charcoal on the outside, and underneath that, of course, that's where the charcoal goes. Then you put the soil in on top, and then you plant into that. Now, this desire to use charcoal in all its many forms is something that came over many years of experimenting with detoxification substances like clay, like zeolites, like binders, like psyllium husk or flaxseed or chia seed. And I eventually realized that by far the strongest and has the best track record behind it, is the best science behind it, that's for sure, is charcoal of all things. And the charcoal leads you eventually to this amazing discovery that it is an agent of transformation. Eventually, you're going to get to a garden that looks like this. I mean, that's what we're going for. This is a charcoal enriched environment. The soil has been enriched with charcoal. You can see where it has been and where it hasn't been, because the green is there. There's just more robust life. Now, the charcoal element here is so transformational that J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, they had a really wonderful club in Oxford, and they named that club the coal biters, or the charcoal eaters. This is something that's still prevalent in Scandinavian mythology. And in fact, it was an Icelander. I was in a sauna in Reykjavik, Iceland, and I was talking to a friend of mine there, and he said, I was talking to him about charcoal, and he said, "Have you ever heard of the coal biter?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Yeah, like the Icelandic myth of the coal biter." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I dug into it, and then I found out that stuff about J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis. The coal biter was the child in the Icelandic home, for example, that was the weakest, that didn't want to brave the elements, didn't want to deal with the sleet and the snow and the ice and the being out on the ships and being out there with a sheep. And it's really rough life there in Iceland. Most days it's windy, it's sleet and snow and ice. And that child would, from age 7 to 14, tend the home fire, because back then you had to have a fire in your house. They didn't have central heating. They didn't have any way to heat your house except you'd have a fire burning. And there would be bits and pieces of charcoal, in this case, in particular with the Icelanders, birch and willow charcoal. And then that child would eat that charcoal that was at the edge of the fire that hadn't completely calcined and turned to a powder. And that charcoal would then startlingly metamorphosize that child from age 17 to 14 into the toughest, the most capable, the smartest, the one who could resist the elements, and all of the above through the transformational power of an agency of charcoal. That's the myth and legend of the coal biter. Now, I bet you, if you're clever, you probably go, as I've looked into these myths over the years, and I've looked into these legends, and by the way, this legend is in the Icelandic sagas, so it's in their Iliad or in their Odyssey of their culture. As you dig deeper into mythologies, you probably have thought, there's some truth to this. They're always presenting a truth in the midst of it, right? And so that's what's gone on here, is that there's a truth hidden in all of that. And what an amazing truth that is. I have been a charcoal eater or a coal biter for many years now. Geez, I don't even know how many years it's been. It's probably been, I probably went hardcore in like 2015 is when I went hardcore. So that's about 7-8 years at this point. So now I'm speaking with a lot of experience on the regular eating charcoal, not every single day, but 5 times a week for sure. And how important it is, and how I understand it now, and the power of charcoal to wake you up in the morning, because it pulls all those neurotransmitters right out of your blood that are used up, that are making you drowsy. When you get up in the morning and you urinate, as soon as you urinate, you start waking up, because those neurotransmitters that were floating around in your body that had been used up, the serotonins that had been used up, are now being excreted. So you suddenly come awake. So I've done experiments with people where I've had a whole bunch of people staying at a house, and instead of them getting up and having coffee in the morning, they all get a charcoal drink in the morning, nothing else, water and charcoal, and that's it. And then they drink that and then go about their day, and then report at the end of the day what was different. And startling stories, because the charcoal will wake you up, because it pulls those drowsy neurochemicals out of your blood. And suddenly you go, whoa, I'm awake. What the coffee is doing is just basically pushing you past your drowsiness and just stimulating you past it, which probably, I would suspect, is not the healthiest way to go about it. Okay. There's another little charcoal spot. I like this one because, that was a piece of ice. Well, I like this one because you can see in this environment here with my farm in Canada, it's really hard to dig in the soil there because it's a lot of rock. You can see the rock, that big rock behind. So we got this idea of taking these cut up logs from the yard and piling them up, and then putting the charcoal behind it, and then putting soil in behind that, and then planting right into it. You tell me. It's really, really awesome, and it really works. And when you do everything right, you get really vigorous growth. This is ginkgo, and I did try 13 different ginkgos on this property. It's at very, very far north, and it was wonderful to find out that 3 of them survived. They could handle that level of cold, and they're still going there every year. So the transformational power of fire goes just beyond the campfire, which is always wonderful. And by the way, a good source of negative ions. And interestingly, by the way, if you've ever dug into who invented the light bulb, you found out that it wasn't Thomas Edison. Many people are shocked to find that out. I bet you some of you are shocked to find that out, and it's worth looking up. You should dig into it and look it up. The original light bulb filament that was developed was actually a charcoal filament. And that's the patent that Edison bought, and then he went to improve the filament, and that's what he gets the credit for. He did not invent the light bulb. The filament was charcoal. So next time you have a little campfire like this, and you're looking at that charcoal in that fire, you'll see that there's an electrochemical phenomenon going on there. It's not just a fire. It's not just fire and flame. There's electricity going on. You can, if you have any kind of a wool object, like I will have a wool poncho. If I get it near that, all of a sudden everything will magnetize, and all the static electricity will flame up. And so there's an electrical phenomenon going on with every fire. That will help you to finally go, oh, okay, I got the mystery now a little bit more. I'm starting to understand this a little bit more. Now, what we do is we'll go under a bed like this. These are our planting beds, and we'll go under, we'll put the charcoal underneath, and then again, we'll put the new layer of soil right over the top of that for those of you who are gardening out there. Okay, I think I've got just about every bit of that covered. And let's see if there's anything else I wanted to show you. I guess I could leave that up. That's my front garden, and that's the way I like to have my yard look. You've got to attract all of the elemental energies into your yard and let the green glow come alive, and there you will find your magic. There you will find your entertainment. There you will find your replacement for Hollywood movies. You don't need Hollywood movies when you've got this. This is where the real joy is. This is where the real magic is. That's a sea buckthorn. You can see the magic of that. And just look how healthy, just electrical. That's what we're going for here. And let's see if I got anything else. Well, I think I'll leave it for that, and we'll stop the share. And then we'll kind of pull it all together, and then we'll get to questions. Okay. Hopefully I've inspired you a little bit to think about detoxing on the regular, hopefully on the change of seasons. That's when the forces of nature favor you. The best time is right now, this winter to spring change, and it's not too late. You can start right now. It's really good timing. Many of the world's great religions, right, have their fasting and their cleansing routines happening right around this time, right? So it's like Lent, Pesach, what's the Ramadan, the Hindus, I'm sure, have their ones, and those are the ones we're familiar with in the Judeo-Christian world that we're coming from, Judeo-Christian Islam world. So those are there for a reason. They've been moved around a little bit or pushed because our months are not correct, and so we've lost the kind of the natural thing that I'm trying to get you to, which is, hey, that day of equal day and night, that's the real day when winter ends and spring begins, and to pay attention to it and tune into that, and to get it on the internet and be like, hey, what day is that in my town where I live? And it's neat. It's really it's a cool little part of the process. It's a neat part of the renewal, actually, of the ancient rites and the ancient religions and our ancient ancestors and what they wanted for us. They wanted for us to be healthy and happy, and they had designed and set up traditions for us so that that got instilled within us. Meanwhile, we're going through Pesach, or we're going through Ramadan or whatever, and we're eating. It's like, what's going on? They left us these gifts for a reason. One of the great things about all of this is that reconnection to your lineage and reconnection to your ancestors when you get really cleaned out on the inside. And it's like a surfing a wave. You get really cleaned out and you're riding that wave, and it's just on, and you're just like, you're in it, and you feel your ancestors, you feel that magic, you feel the great life force of nature. But then, all of a sudden it's like you get back to doing smoothies, and step by step you get back to eating, and pretty soon that hyper magic dims down a little bit. But these are the things about life. Everything comes in cycles and waves, and we want to ride that wave as much as possible. All right, cool. What kind of water am I drinking? I'm a spring water person, so remember that. I like to go hunt spring water. This is a particularly interesting little water project here on this house. So water comes out of the ground, goes through the well, goes through the first filtration system, goes through another filtration system, and then goes through a hydrogen system. So this is hydrogen enriched water. So I'm really enjoying that. So it's not the normal thing that I do, but it's kind of fun to play around a little bit. I do have a little bit of ice in there, and I've got a little bit of lemon, and then a little, maybe or maybe not, some sea salt. I don't taste it, but there could be some sea salt in there, and that's it. And then I'm going to be doing that all week long. And then if I really feel like I need a moment of like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit rough or that kind of thing, I'll do an enema or try to get a bowel movement to happen. And if I feel I'm a little bit like drowsy, then I'll take a bunch of charcoal and see if I can move through that with the charcoal. So charcoal is the only real kind of supplement that I'll be taking this week, although it's really fun to do water fasting and doing a high amount of enzymes. That's really fun. And I may do that on day 8. We'll see how that goes. Okay. I think I about covered everything. You guys have seen my life. You've seen that I am actually a avocado farmer and a chocolate farmer, and that I really find great mystery and magic in nature. Let's take some questions. How about we do that?
David,
I don't know how. Yes.
Thank you so much. As always, unique and enlightening and inspiring and vulnerable. We appreciate you sharing what you're doing with all of us. It means a lot. So thank you for that. Yes, we definitely are going to take some Q&A just to make sure that everybody knows if people want to find your books or they want to reach out to you somehow or find more information, where is the absolute best place to go or places?
Right on. Thank you. Okay. So number one is just davidwolfe.com, DAVIDWOLFE. That's a good hub to find me. Or you can go to thebestdayever.com /links, like LINKS, like link to things. And that's my link tree. So that's where I keep all, like anything that's kind of current is always on thebestdayever.com /links. And I'm going to do a redo of my website soon. So hopefully that'll happen this year. I'm kind of excited about that. But how do we have more time? Stephen, I think you know my answer to that is you have more time if you're eating less, and that means you can get more done.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, David. And so with that, we're going to line up for some Q&A. We want to make sure everybody knows how we go about that here. Some people are already raising their hands. What we do, we normally, folks, we don't normally take questions directly from the chat box, but what we do is we ask you to raise your virtual hand. And so those of you that don't know, you can look down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You'll see different tabs. One of them is called the reactions tab. And so you click on your reactions tab and up comes a little menu with different emojis. And one of them says raise hand. You click on that. We will see your hand raised and we will go ahead and take the raised hands in the order in which we receive them. And then I'll go ahead and unmute. I'll call out your name and I'll unmute you. We'll set them up and David will knock them down and we'll go from there. Good, David?
That sounds the best ever.
All right. Excellent. So that said, let me jump in and find our first person. I think I'm in the right place. Okay. And it looks like Deborah M is our first. Deborah, I'm unmuting you. Welcome, Deborah.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask about eggplant when you said that you're really into like black, I guess, fruits and vegetables or whatever. I don't know if that's purple or black and all this talk about nightshades. And so what are your thoughts about eggplant, which I like to grow in my charcoal activated garden?
Nice. Awesome. By the way, I do want to give everyone a resource, which is biocharnow.com. I get totes of charcoal because I make my own charcoal, of course, in our fire, but I'm full on. I want to get every acre. I want to get it covering everything because we're in a toxic environment and more charcoal, the better. So you can buy a big tote from biochar.com. And I'd recommend the rice size pellets. And that makes it really easy for farming or gardening. If you really want something that's just already done for you, perfectly particulated, it's awesome. So I just wanted to mention that. Eggplant. I love growing eggplant. I love eggplant. I mean, I just love the flavor. I love the plant. I love the food. It's a nightshade. So it's like tobacco. It's like kind of on this quasi toxic side to itself, but being Mediterranean, I have a place in my heart for eggplant, and it's not like I eat it every day, but every now and then I have an eggplant dish and I really, really enjoy it. And it's just like anything else. If you have too much of one thing, you're going to get into trouble. That's just the way nature works, because nature's always shifting things on you. It's like, hey, apple season's here and then it's gone. And then, like we're headed towards berry season. We just saw some really developed berries here in Texas. We're so far south, we're like Florida, that we're like, I'm going, my God, we can get 2 whole crops in. We're getting crops in March, and then we're pretty much harvesting in June. We're getting crops in May, and we're harvesting in September, October. It's amazing. We're just amazed. So I like eggplant, but I will say this. I would recommend that everyone if you're an eggplant person, you're like, why in the hell is it named eggplant? If you look at Japanese eggplant, then you'll know. So if you can punch up, do an internet search on Japanese eggplant, you'll go, what? There you'll see the reason why we call it eggplant.
Awesome, David. Thank you so much. And up next, we have Stephanie P. Stephanie, I'm going to unmute you and welcome.
Hi, David. Thanks for doing this.
Right on. Thank you.
My question is about fasting. So a while ago, I wanted to start getting the benefits of fasting as I was on a journey to get my health together. So I decided to baby step it and start slow. So I've heard of people like fasting, 1 day a week or whatever. So I decided to try that and it went well. Like I felt the euphoric energy and clear and I felt good. However, I did notice a side effect that I was curious about. I have high blood pressure, so I usually take my blood pressure every morning. And I noticed every morning after the fasting day, it seemed to be like elevated, which made me nervous to do a deeper dive and to, start adding on the days and to getting more into fasting because I'm like, if this is raising my blood pressure, then should I continue on? So I don't know if you've ever experienced that before with anyone in your groups or anything. Could you kind of talk about anything you know about that?
Okay, good. Thanks. Good question, by the way. And I really love this area of high blood pressure research. And I went deep on it with my friend Dr. Group the other day, and we had basically a whole day we were talking about high blood pressure cases and what he thought was the real cause of it. And his position was interesting, and it's a position that I think he's right. High blood pressure is almost always a liver issue. It's a liver clog issue, and of course there's other factors like dehydration. And I think we've really got to also orient ourselves to taking they're good for microcirculation. Okay, that's, I think, a factor in high blood pressure. So, for example, yesterday, what were the foods? Like Tulsi, the herb, the great Ayurvedic herb, is great for microcirculation. It's awesome. In fact, I recommend that if you're not doing any kind of herb every day, and let's say you're just like, well, occasionally I do green tea or something, Tulsi, the great Ayurvedic herb, is one that I recommend. It's the holy basil is another name for it. And you can get some, I think Organic India probably has the best, and great company run by a really wonderful man over in India, an old friend. So Tulsi would be that kind of microcirculation stimulator. There's other ones. There's things that are more, profound. For example, what's a big one on the list? Well, any cayenne pepper, any garlic, onions, anything like that are very powerful in microcirculation. But they're so, they're very strong. So you have to kind of find what you like. I'm not really a garlic guy. I'm more of an onion guy. So I like eating onions just straight. I'm that guy who just eat the onion straight. And you may want to put some more of that in your diet, but a liver cleanse is a really good idea. And then another thing is, when you fast and cleanse, you do stress your body. You really do, because your body's going, whoa, no food. Wait, what's going on? And so even though you can get into those highs, you have to also watch the stress. So typically what happens when people to the stage before they start getting low, they start going, my back's hurting. What's going on with my lower back? Because the crust suddenly dislodged and moved, and it all shows up in your kidneys, and that can cause that kind of thing. And that's kind of what happens too if you're just like doing spontaneous fasting each week. Is you might move some sludge and goes, whoa, wait, what's going on? And so that's to be a little bit careful with spontaneous. That's why I really recommend, because of the level of our toxicity in our environment, that we go slow and that we move into doing these kind of regular water fasts. That's not to say it's not, I think it is good to do intermittent fasting, but it's way better and healthier the healthier that you are, because we don't want to move a bunch of sludge too quickly or, kind of sporadically where the body's like, whoa, wait, what's going on? It's kind of shocking. And I wish I had better news for you, because I really like that you're doing intermittent fasting, but it can be a little bit stressful on the system.
David, thanks for that. And up next, we have David A. I'm going to unmute you. Hi, David.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, David, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I was hoping you could talk about using Colima boards for home colon hydrotherapy and castor oil packs. And I know you've discussed parasites before, and I assume parasites are the number one issue you should do even before you're doing a cleanse using your rug supplement.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we always guide people into the cleanses, when the first week and the second week, we're doing a lot of, even before those weeks begin, we're doing heavy amounts of parasite herbs like black walnut, hull, and cloves and things of that nature. Now, those are not tonic herbs and not something you should do regularly, but there are something you should do occasionally just to see if you can get parasites out. Now, sometimes people really get a lot of parasites out, and it's really gnarly, actually, to just be very blunt with you. It's a key part of cleansing. In fact, a lot of our behavior is driven, especially food behavior, is driven by parasites. And, when you think about that, you think like, wait, what? And even Candida is just a simple thing. A simple yeast organism is really a parasite. It's leaching off of you. It's not giving you really anything. Might be protecting you from mercury. That's true. But it's really not doing anything for you. So it's really a parasite, and it's influencing people to just binge on sugar, right? So just imagine a more complex parasite like you would get from a tapeworm or liver fluke or something of that nature. We've got to get those out. So that is a key part of cleansing. And we use different ones. I use let's see, I've got, where's my rug? Rug's here. That's one product that I use. It's remove unwanted guests. It's kind of a little play on, a bug and a rug, that kind of a thing. And microbe formulas, these guys have mimosa pudica seed, another really powerful worm killer. Now at this stage, and then Dr. Group's Paratrex, where's that one? Mycozil is another good one. This is good for against Candida. And I really like that product against Candida. And then Dr. Group has his Paratrex, which I think I have back here. I should see if I can grab it. Hopefully I'm not too pinned in here. Okay, let me grab this so you guys can see that product. And that's that one right there. And so with those four, right? So we got basically these four right here, and I'm doing these for like a month leading into the cleanse. And then, once I get to the water fast, I'm off those herbs. And I didn't get any parasites out this time, and I haven't for many years. So I think I'm good at this stage, but I still stay on it because you never know what you're exposed to and never know how those critters get in there. So that's a big deal. I'm glad you brought that up. What was the other part of your question? I think you had another piece of the question as well.
Yes, the other one was using Colima boards instead of seeing a hydrocolon therapist. Use Colima boards at home, and also castor oil packs. I wanted to get your opinion.
Okay, I like doing castor packs and enemas and Colima boards too. Colima boards are effective as well, and just depends on what you're comfortable with. Some people I'm just like getting clients. Some people I do a home enema. Some people are I like the Colima board. That's what Ann Wigmore got me on, so I'm going to stick with that one. And just depends on you. But with the thing that I like to do is I like to do the castor pack and then the enema afterwards and see if I can really move some sludge. So the castor pack is just something that I just did it because, all my advisors, teachers, and people around me, they're all just do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so I've got the linen soaked in the castor and put it on my stomach, and then put the hot water bottle on it and just sit there for an hour. And geez, there's been some times, especially when I've done fasts, where I've done that combination of the castor pack with the enemas, and it was really profound. I mean, profound stuff. And it doesn't happen every time, but I'm a fan, I have to say.
David, excellent. Thank you so much for that. And up next, we have Joe L. We know this guy. Hang on. There you are, Joe. Hey, Joe.
Yes. Hey, David, how are you?
Superb. Best ever.
Excellent. Dave, I have two quick questions for you. One, I make biochar, and I just wanted to get your take on activating it, the importance of activating it, because I activate it, putting it in my compost pile, and that's my method of activation. Some people use it in compost tea. And my second question is, I'm a big green juicer, and I did see a video some years back about you promoting the importance of coconut oil when you're drinking your juice. And it's interesting. I've gotten so much pushback from this conference on coconut oil. So I just want to get your take on all that.
Okay, great. First of all, I'm so glad you're doing charcoal and you're into biochar. That is so epic. One of the things that is happening in compost piles is you have the nitrogen escaping. That's the smell. You smell like, oh, it's a gross, pile of rotting, whatever. And so you throw the charcoal in there, and just kills that smell. In my old house up there in Ontario, where we have our farm, it's an old farmhouse basically. So was put in 1960. The toilets would have like odors coming up. So we started flushing charcoal down the toilet. That just completely wiped out all those problems. There's no odor ever. It's amazing. If you're somebody who believes that cleanliness is near to godliness, which I personally believe, then this is just for everybody listening. Charcoal is it's beyond miraculous. I brush my teeth with charcoal. I brush my skin with charcoal. It's everything. It's just the most amazing thing. It just goes on. It's just on and on and on. I mean, if you get the charcoal going through the sewer system, for example, in your neighborhood, if you're not on, we're on a septic system, but if you're in a neighborhood where it's going into a sewer system, you're doing good for your whole neighborhood. You're wiping out all those odors and you're trapping all those toxins. It's just awesome what can happen and by the way, that happens anyway. If you take charcoal and it goes all the way through you and comes out the other side, it keeps working after it goes out of you and goes into the sewer systems, etc. So just a little bit on that. Whenever you have green juice, okay, let's say you have something rich in chlorophyll, let's say kale or something. So let's say we're going to make a kale juice, and we're going to do kale and chard and things of that nature, and we're just making a cool juice and lemon. There is an enormous amount of carotenoids behind the chlorophyll. Always four. There's always four different carotenoids that are behind the chlorophyll. Those are fat soluble. Those are fat soluble compounds, like beta carotene being the most famous of the group. Lutein also being quite famous. Lycopene is another one, very famous, very well known. These are carotenoids. There's 750 different ones, but there's always four behind every single molecule of chlorophyll. So what's happening there? Why are they there? And what does that mean? Well, these substances are oil soluble. So back in the old days when I was doing NutriBullet blenders on TV, I would always, when I'd blend a soup, for example, I'd always put like a little bit of olive oil in there or coconut oil in there. And then that draws out the carotenoid. And this is where the research is, by the way. It not only draws the carotenoid out, but it actually makes it much more available to your blood. So the blood research indicates that if you have heat, a little bit of heat, obviously you don't want to boil it, but you have a little bit of heat, oil, and I'm trying to think of I think it was heat and oil, and there was one other thing. Those are the two main ones. It's been a while. You actually increase the uptake of those carotenoids into your blood, and it can be to such a point that, for example, lycopene can flip from being a really good blood nutrient, really important carotenoid, to actually being an immunological substance where it actually protects your blood. It completely flips all the way into its final destiny, which is it's actually becomes a blood protector and defends your blood like the immune system does. Now that research that really got me going, and I came across that research from doing research on color pigments, of which I eventually wrote a book that's never been published on all the color pigments in nature and what their benefits are and how they affect us and why they're there and all that stuff. And the carotenoids are really interesting. You can live your whole life without carotenoids. It doesn't mean you'll be healthy. If you can get more carotenoids bioavailable in your system, it's healthier for you. And so I do really well with olive oil. I'm more of an olive oil person than say coconut oil. That it's just genetic. I could drink olive oil. I just love it. Other people are like, you can't have oil. This is terrible. You're going to die. And it's like, to each his own. Olive oil and olives in general as a food of longevity, it's unmatched. It's 9 to 18% increase in lifespan. Like I was talking about earlier, remember with, if you have right lifestyle and everything's right and everything's good and you're doing everything the best possible, you can really extend your lifespan. Olive oil leads that research. It's just in the diets of the longest lived people in the world. There's a lot of reasons I have for that. That's one of them, by the way, that draws the carotenoids out of the green foods. The other reason I would say, by the way, is that it's very high in oleorubin. Oleorubin is found in olives. It's found in the olive tree. It's found in the olive leaf, and it's found in olive oil. Oleorubin is an iridoid pigment. It's a yellow to green pigment that has very strong immunological activity, and it has activity to prevent healthy hormones like testosterone from flipping into toxic hormones that can lead to breast cancer and prostate cancer. And I suspect that is one of the most protective elements in the Mediterranean diet strategy, of which, that's basically what I eat. I mean, I like Mediterranean food. I mean, I think olive, for me personally, is my number one food genetically to eat. And I was in Jerusalem. I just want to throw this little thing in there. When you're into things like actually eating the food as it's presented by nature, nobody else is. So like I was in Jerusalem and I'm like, there's like all these olive trees around like the old wall there. And I'm just like, there's nobody there and nobody's eating the olives, and they're all on the ground and they're all ripe, because the olives will fall and then they will ripen on the ground and they turn black, and they're, my God, you get the ones that are fully ripe and mature. They're good. You could easily harvest. Like I could have harvested enough food just from what was falling on olive trees in Jerusalem to feed me without ever going to a store. I mean, that's the world we're living in. There's so much abundance, but we're so focused on this over here that we don't see that. So that was my little diatribe for the day.
And we appreciate it. Thank you, Dave.
Right on. Thanks.
Up next, we have Ann H. Ann H. Let's go ahead and unmute you. Hi, Ann.
Hello, David. Hello, Ben. So I'm calling from Toronto, and I've been following you for over 25 years. And thank you for another inspiring speech tonight. And I have two questions for you. The first one is about the charcoal. Can I put half a teaspoon or a teaspoon in my protein shake in the morning to continue my liver cleanse that I'm currently doing? And does this will cleanse the liver and the kidneys? You talk about the kidneys today. So I was wondering about that. And my second question is about your wonderful zapper. Once I put it on my body, and I guess I put it too strong, and it pinched my skin, and I said, "Oh, I don't like that." So, can you tell me what's the best way to use it? Can I use that on a daily basis when I do a cleanse? And I let you answer these two questions.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I'm sorry you got burned by the zapper. Let me see if I got my zapper. I do have it. I'm just going to have to stretch for it. I think it's in my backpack right here. Hold on one second, just so I can show you. You see this here. Hopefully it's not out of juice. Oh, it's not. Okay, good. Okay, so there's my zapper right there. I don't manufacture this anymore. So if you have one, you're lucky. You got one of the old ones. Anyway, the setting you want it on is the ones that are furthest out. See, those two are furthest out. See over here, that's the furthest one out, and that one's on, and then this one's the furthest one out. So hit these buttons over here until they're the furthest out. The green button's the on off. So that's the setting that you want it on right there. See that? You might want to take a picture, take a screenshot of that. And that way you can compare that to, in case you forget, because sometimes you get, off the call and all of a sudden you're like, was it the furthest one out, the furthest one in? Which one was it? It's the furthest one out, the furthest out. That's the lowest voltage. And, that's the least likely to burn you right there. And you just clip that on and just put it wherever you want. Now, I could go on, I could do a whole lecture on zappers. I don't want to get into that right now. Unfortunately, the two biggest manufacturing operations of zappers out there, and just family run operations, they both unfortunately died in tragically, really terrible, and it's just really a bummer. In accidents. So, I'm really troubled about that, because I really want to have some zapper that I can send to, or at least turn people onto, and that will send them to somewhere on the internet where they can get something like a device like this. Now, you can hunt up ones that were, and the old ones, by the way, look like this. You can hunt up ones on, maybe on eBay or something. These old zappers right here. This is mine, so you can see the difference. I should get back into manufacturing these. It's just, there's one thing at a time. Now, somebody had asked, I think Stephen Chord had said, where do they get your books? All my books right now, almost all my books, except for the beauty diet, are out of print. And I'm doing them all myself, and I'm redoing them all. That takes a lot of time. I don't know if I'm going to get it done this year, but I will get it done. And so I will have a completely new editions of every single one of my books. We're going through them like one at a time. The next one will be Superfoods, and then I think probably Shaga, and then it will go on like that. And we'll redo every single one of those books. I'm really excited about that, but it's quite a bit of work. Those books were written, some of them 25 years ago. Okay, so anyway, back to your question. One was on zappers, and the other was on, can you blend the charcoal into your smoothie? And the answer is yes, you sure can. You can put charcoal into anything or blend it into your smoothie. That's probably not the best use of the charcoal, because charcoal really works best when it hits your stomach empty, and it can get all the way into your intestines with nothing there. And then it inspires a phenomenon called interstitial dialysis. Interstitial dialysis, where it draws the toxins actually from your blood through right back through the villi, right into your intestines and right out. And that's a very interesting phenomenon, that charcoal is able to actually purify and cleanse your blood system, even though it really doesn't penetrate into your blood at all. Very little charcoal is actually absorbed. 99% plus is not absorbed beyond the intestinal villi. So that means it's a drawing agent. So it sits there in the intestines, and it tries to draw from the interior of your body, from your bloodstream mostly, the toxins, and attempting to adhere to them and then draw them completely out of your system. Can charcoal release toxins in your body? And the answer is no. It's a complete and total adsorptive substance. So it's not like a binder, for example, a fiber from a plant. It's actually a complete and total binder. And that's why I like it so much. That's why I prefer it. And does that mean, can you have charcoal with your other binders like chia seed or something? Sure, absolutely. Can you have charcoal in, your sourdough? Yeah, absolutely. People do it all the time. And it's kind of fun, actually, now that we've gotten into this, all these years of the things that we've kind of mixed charcoal into. You can have charcoal soap, see all kinds of things, charcoal shampoo, charcoal toothpaste, all kinds of cool stuff. It's just, a good new tool of health and fun that we just, it was always there. I'm sure some of you have your charcoal right now. It's in your cabinet right now, and you took 8 of them or 10 of them when you had an upset stomach, and then you put it in the back of the cabinet. You said, this is only for when I have an upset stomach. And I'm here to tell you, it is not. Get that thing out, finish that off, and get more charcoal, and really get into it as a lifestyle.
Excellent, David. Thank you. Excuse me. Up next, we have Steve B. I am unmuting you. Hi, Steve. Steve, are you there? Oh, Steve, I have you unmuted, but we're not hearing you. Just want to make sure you're there. Any luck? Okay, Steve, you know what? I'm going to lower your hand, and if you can work out those audio issues on your end and raise your hand again, we'll see if we still have time to get you back in. Let me lower you there. And now we're going to move on to Ruth L. Ruth, hi, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I am. This is really a fascinating talk. David, I wanted to ask, I'm in Canada, I'm in Toronto also. And do you have a distribution center here at all for any of your products?
I do, and I'm glad that you asked. And I will give you, I think it's just Canada. I'll type it out. It's Canada@davidwolfe.com, and ask for Groovinda, just like, being groovy. And I'll put that in the chat here for everyone to see. It's Canada@davidwolfe.com, and you should be able to get in touch with Groovinda, and she can send you. We have a lot of stuff there, and actually I have things there that we make from our farm there that I don't actually have anywhere else. Some cool stuff like our sea buckthorn tincture is a really neat product we make there. So there's more variety sometimes even there than I have in the US.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, David. And up next, we have Ainsley. Hi, Ainsley.
Hey, everyone. Good night. Good night. I heard you speaking about olives. Although you had fresh olives and you picked it up from the tree and whatnot, we in the Caribbean, we have 0 olive trees. What is the best olive we can get? Is it the green one in the vinegar or the dark ones in the brine? Which do you prefer for us?
Oh, good question. Okay, well, it just depends on what kind of medicine you want. Now, that's the green ones are higher. That green color, that kind of green yellow color, that's the oleorupine. So that's actually better medicine. The green ones have more medicine in them. And as they ripen towards like a purple, eventually they'll go black. Then they still have oleorupine in them, but that goes down, and then the anthocyanins go up. So you're going to get more of those fruit pigments and more of the interesting darker pigments, which have more of like a longevity. Like the purple ones are really for digestion. So we'll just chunk it down. Green, medicinal. Purple is for digestion. So that's like a digestive tonic. Black is for longevity. If we had to just chunk it to the simplest way to decide which olives you're going to get.
Excellent. Thank you, David, for that as well. And we now have Leonard. I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute. Let's see if that works. Hi, Leonard.
Hello.
Hi,
I think we heard you. You're there.
Yeah, I was looking at some of your pictures, and you have a beautiful lawn and beautiful grounds. I was curious, do you have something you could suggest for, fertilizing? I have a front lawn that would help. I don't know if that's a strange question or not, but
how big's your lawn? How big is it?
It's about 1/4 of an acre.
You're heading for charcoal. That's such a great thing to just sprinkle it and spread it all evenly across your whole lawn. And it just goes right in. The ground will just absorb it. And it's really, the vibration of it is something that I'm literally like addicted to it. It's so awesome to have charcoal on the ground all around your house. It's just there's something about it. It's indescribable. It's like, there's something, what's happening with the charcoal is it's a negative polarity, right? So we always are trying to create this dynamic interaction of opposites. When you take the charcoal, by the way, you're more negatively charged. That's better. You're going to attract better quality oxygen from the environment, actually. And that's kind of what's happening around your house. I mean, you're making your house super special. So my recommendation is to go to a place like Biochar now, get their finely particulated stuff, maybe get the rice sized or smaller, and then just sprinkle that right across your quarter acre and just have at it. And I think you'll have a really good time with it. I think you'll find it to be the best move because it persists in the soil. It doesn't go away. It's not like it disappears next year. It stays and remains, and its action remains for a year, go on forever, infinitely. In fact, we know from the Amazonian cultures, the Tierra Preta de los Indios, the black earth of the native people of Brazil, in those regions in the Amazon, that they were making charcoal for the purpose of increasing fertilization of the soil. And those areas, as they get closer and closer and closer into looking at those areas, they find that the areas that have the highest biochar have the most fertility. The highest charcoal is the most fertility. So, I don't know about you, but that's what I want. I think that's probably what you want too.
Excellent, David. Thank you very much for that. And let me go ahead and bring up our next question from Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Ben. Hey, David.
Hey, Steve.
Really close friend of mine, many issues, heart disease, diabetes. Now he's on kidney failure and dialysis. Can he use this activated charcoal as an adjunct, a way to aid in the detoxification? Because every time before he goes for the dialysis, he's got that metallic taste in his mouth. So he's flooded. And that's my question. What can we do?
Great question. And the answer is yes. Charcoal is the best thing actually for people on dialysis and people in that state. I found that out. I sent a friend of mine to one of these pharmaceutical medical conferences, and I was like, just whatever you could find me something interesting. And he comes back with this whole thing where the pharmaceutical industry, by the way, has known all along of the powers of charcoal. In fact, Merck Pharmaceuticals manufactured the best charcoal clay combination product in the world for over 100 years. Just about 3 years ago, they took it off the market. I find that to be very interesting timing. But some friends of mine in Europe used to get that product for me, and they used to send it to me. And it was a cool little thing like that. And it was 80% activated charcoal, 20% clay, and great product and neat for on the fly. If somebody needed it real quick, boom, it was just really easy for people to do. When that guy came back from that pharmaceutical conference, he showed me that they had packaged this charcoal in this interesting way to release into the lower GI tract to work on people who were on dialysis. And this is where I started getting into the research on interstitial dialysis, which is charcoal's effect as being an extra filter, extra to the kidneys and the liver and the spleen. And so it's his best bet. And if he's going to survive, the charcoal is going to be the way. But, whenever I hear of a case like that, I always have to go one step further, Steve, and I just have to say, he needs to be unplugged. He's backed up in waste, right? He needs to have those guts drained out. Maybe a really good laxative herb is a really good way to go. Maybe slippery elm or something like that, or just get him in for a colonic and get that waste out because his life is literally on the line.
Sage advice. Thank you very much, David. Let me go ahead and bring up our next question from Monty. Hi, Monty. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Glenn. Great presentation. I'm calling from Trenton in Ontario.
So nice.
Yeah, I didn't get that. But I'd like to know sea buckthorn berry. Can we source it from you? And the other thing, what's your take on the oat seeds? I'd like to get some to grow, to get the milky oat get it in a milky form. How could I get that?
Okay, great question. Okay, so I guess we'll go to the first one. Is I do have a sea buckthorn tincture that I sell that's made entirely in Ontario, and that you can contact Gruvenda Canada at davidwolfe.com, and that I put that in the comments there. Send her a message, and she has that. It's a tincture with the berries themselves. I mean, the only problem there is we eat them all. That's the only problem. So I usually don't have any extra because I like to eat them all. I mean, we're trying to live off the land as much as possible. So sea buckthorns is a huge piece of the puzzle because they are so rich in vitamin C. They're 5 times the vitamin C as an orange. So if you're that far north, it's hard to get that vitamin C a lot of the year, but it's easy if you have sea buckthorn. And another thing about sea buckthorn, it makes an awesome tea, by the way. So I'd really recommend, Monty, if you're going to get into growing like milky oats, maybe you want to get into growing sea buckthorn because it makes a great tea. And you could just basically, we just basically go and clip the ends of all the bushes, and then they just dry with the wood and everything. Just throw the whole thing in there, make a tea out of the whole deal. Now, milky oats, I grew up in a lot of my life on the border in Southern California, and there was wild oats that grew all through those deserts everywhere. And so you basically take the seed open, you get it, and you can squeeze the little milky oat part out. You could really get it. That's, so when it comes to oats, my entire understanding of oats is all about the wild food part. I never eat oats. I don't grow oats, commercially or domestically or anything like that. I've always eaten wild oats. I think I've sown a few wild oats too, but I had to just throw that in there. But eating wild oats is so neat. It's amazing. And for those of you who are in Southern California, it's the one that opens like that. When you're looking at the grass and it has this seed thing that drops down, has this little V. That's the wild oats, and they're all over. I mean, there's whole hillsides covered with them in Southern California. It's really interesting to go out and actually eat them, and to actually be like, oh, let me get the actual thing out of here, and it's milky and really good for you in that stage. The oats that we're getting in the store, the steel milled and cut oats, they're a little bit gooey for me, for my metabolism. They're really, maybe I could eat it once a year or something, but I can't eat that kind of food consistently. It's too mucusy and just doesn't digest very well for me. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And
Thank you, man.
Let's go ahead and bring up our next question from Juliet. Hi, Juliet. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to unmute you again, Juliet. There we go. Hi, Juliet.
Hi. I was wondering, what's the best product to detox heavy metals? I have like 99% cadmium from a blood test.
Okay, thank you for asking that. Such a good question. And the thing that I'm going to recommend as the baseline, I mean, there's different ways to go about it. Cadmium and zinc are antagonistic to each other. So if I recall, it's cadmium and zinc. So the thing that you want to do there is you want to get more zinc into your diet. And I'd probably recommend like a natural zinc type of product. Like Dr. Group has a zinc that he does out of guava leaf. Mm-hmm. So that's the most natural zinc on the market, by the way. Everything else is like zinc picolinate. You have that, yeah. So that's one piece of it, just because it's antagonistic. But you're going to need a drawing agent for the cadmium. What's the most consistent, easiest to activate, pun intended, detoxifier of cadmium? It's charcoal. And so just getting on a consistent protocol, 5 days a week, you do 500 milligrams of charcoal in the morning, 1,000 milligrams of charcoal in the morning, and just consistently do that. That would be my recommended strategy, along with you have to have, it's chelation by replacement. You need the zinc to push the cadmium out of the receptor site. So, it's that kind of 1-2 punch.
Excellent, David. Thank you very much. And now we have our next big question from Ruth. Hi, Ruth. Oh, wait.
I'm back again because I didn't get a chance to have a couple of my questions answered. What do you think about, this has been on my shelf for quite a while and I haven't even opened it. Activated charcoal carbon, but it's white. It's a white.
Oh, yeah, the white one. Oh, good question. Okay. So let's talk about gradations of strength of charcoal. The white one's the weakest. Just regular charcoal, like a birch charcoal or a willow charcoal, they still make that. That's not activated. That's in the middle, and generally, for my taste, a little too weak for me personally. And then the strongest is the activated charcoal. So, should you take it? Yeah, take it. Just take it until you finish the bottle, and then go get one that's a little stronger.
Excellent, David. Thank you. And Ruth, you're still with us. Did you have another?
I do. I'm up there in my 70s, and back in 2002, I did a water fast for 3 weeks, and I'm about 115 pounds right now. And people were screaming at me then when I went on that fast because I lost so much weight. And if I do a fast again like that, I'm going to go down to, I don't know what, 90 pounds or something. And I'm going to be screamed at again by everybody who thinks, I'm a little bit crazy for doing this. I'm just wondering, at my age, Given this information I'm passing on to you, and also given the fact that it's difficult for some of us to do this. It's just difficult. I'm a disciplined person, but I'm not sure that I could do a long fast like that. But even a shorter fast, what would you say to someone like me?
That was great. And let me tell you something, what we're doing with detoxing and cleansing, and especially consistently doing it, is one of the hardest things to do in the world. It's very difficult to stay with it and to keep doing it. And every 3 months comes around, it's like, oh my God, we got another one. Here we go again. And it is challenging, I have to say. And it's challenging for different people in different ways. And some people it's more mental, some people it's more emotional, and some people it's just the discipline side of it, just the physical, you're going to do this, then that, then this. But I would say, Ruth, that I wouldn't look at doing a 3-week fast. And that's kind of this is the projection that happens. People suddenly go, I did a 3-week fast and this and that, and I don't want to do that again. Or I did a 40-day fast and this and that. That is getting us into trouble, because that's this like one shot kind of concept. We don't want to get into that mentality. This is a way of life. This is lifestyle. So we're talking about detoxing and cleansing and fasting as a lifestyle choice on the regular, every change of seasons, or just once a year or twice a year. It depends on what you want to do. This time though, the spring cleaning is the strongest. And so instead of getting this like projecting out, like I'm going to lose too much weight, don't worry about that. It's one day at a time. Let's just go to day one. Okay, today we're starting on the cleanse, and we're going to do the parasite pills, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to get down to 1 meal a day, and we're going to do the rest liquids today, and then we go to day 2, and we just go through it like that, instead of the projection stuff, which is what if is never going to arrive. It's in the future. We got to bring it back right into today and right now. Remember, wherever you go, there you are, and we're never outside of the present moment. We're always in the present moment. And so that's more of where the strength of the fasting comes, is in the immediate moment. The more of the detox and cleansing comes in the immediate moment. Where the trouble comes is when we start going, what about this? And what if I get to day 5 and this happens? And so I see that every day. In fact, I'm coaching people off the cliff every day like that, because the inner talk is where the trouble starts. I could just have that chip right there. I could just eat that chip. I could do that. And you start talking yourself out of it. So what we do is we just go immediately, as soon as that self-talk starts going down that direction, you change your environment. You go outside, you go do something else. You go into the garden, and you just get out of that inner talk of like, what if people criticize me? What if people say this or something? It's different for everybody, but it's always the same chatter that starts to talk you out of it. And that's the same stuff that David Goggins talks about when he gets up there and he's doing his crazy stuff and he's doing his running, and he's like that inner fat guy that he was starts to talk to him, starts saying, we don't need to do this today. We don't need to get up. We don't need to do this jog. We don't need to do this run. That inner talk is the battle that we're fighting all the time with our whole lives. And as soon as you build up a discipline, like, nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get through this next 15 minutes. I got this. I got it. That inner talk just disappears as paper tiger. It's eradicated.
Thank you, David, very, very much. We want to thank everybody for their questions. We want to thank you for being so gracious to answer everybody's questions. For any questions we didn't get to, we're sorry. We're up against the clock. And forgive me, I feel like I swallowed some dust and I need some water. But that said, David, thank you so much. Again, inspiring, enlightening, eye-opening. And we're really, really grateful that you were here to share all this with us. I know I'm not the only one that wants to thank you. So I'm going to ask our tech team to unmute everybody. And what do you want to say to David Wolfe, everybody?
Somebody named Nancy.